If you're a video editor, you've been scammed. Let me explain. The top 1%. You've heard of these as the strongest, the smartest, the richest people in the world. Maybe when you hear this, the top 1%, you think of people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. Maybe you even think about Steve Jobs or Kobe Bryant. But what if I said you could be in that top 1%? Specifically when it comes to video editing. To be honest, it's not that hard to do. You see, video editing is a very saturated market in regards to the amount of people who are trying to do it. But after having been an editor for 7 years, having edited for over 15,000 hours, and having worked with some of the biggest and smallest YouTubers out there, I have learned that despite there being a huge amount of editors in numbers, there's a huge need for good editors. So right now, let's get into how you can join that top 1% of video editors. Right now, in the current state of the creator economy, video editors are popping up everywhere, left, right, and center. They're doing these crazy 3D animations, generating AI and rigging it to move into space, and then they're putting these things on screen at such a fast pace, it's giving everyone just a massive headache. And for some reason, this trend is scamming everyone, making editors believe that it's this that makes you a good editor. It's not your 3D skills, your animation skills, or how many titles you can put on screen, or seeing how many things or assets we can put on screen in the smallest period of time possible. That's not what makes you a good editor, despite what you might think. What truly makes you a master editor, what makes you a master at retention, at engagement, and what makes you an overall good editor is one thing and one thing only: storytelling ability. Everything else is just a nice to have, but if you can dial in that one thing, your storytelling ability as a video editor, there's a real need for you, despite there being a saturation in the market. But that begs the question: how do you do this, right? How can you actually become a good storyteller as an editor? Well, first things first, and a lot of you won't want to hear this, but you need to go back to the basics. Two of the most important parts of crafting a good story within video editing is, one, how you cut it, how you cut the A-roll and make it affect your pacing and flow of the whole story. And second is focusing more on auditory elements. Your sound effects, your music, your dialogue, that kind of thing. Now, let's break each of these down right now. And before we do, I want to quickly say that a lot of the information I'm getting is coming from a couple books that I've read that are really, really good on this topic and will explain it way better than I can in this video. So I highly recommend you go and get yourself those books. The first book I'd recommend you check out is The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. And the second one is The Art of the Cut by Steve Hullfish. These are great books if you want to step in and become a top 1% in video editing, but also just in the creator economy. These two books will definitely help you. Now, the reason the cutting phase in an edit is so crucial is because it's literally the main structure of your story. You're deciding how long you want to hold on certain clips and how long you want, or how quickly you want to cut certain clips, which affects your pacing and your flow, or the way the story moves through the story timeline. It affects the direction that you take in the video you're making. Now, here's the big problem. After having worked with a lot of editors, having had placed editors with clients, and having just worked with a lot of clients myself, I've unfortunately found that an overwhelming amount of video editors drag and drop their footage into the timeline, and they just start cutting dead spaces away. They just go in between each sentence the person's talking, and they just cut all the dead spaces, all of the and then sometimes they don't even do that well. When actually making cuts and making sure that my cuts are coming out seamless, I like to focus on three main cutting techniques. I like to focus on doing jump cuts, J cuts, and L cuts. Before diving into these fundamental editing techniques though, that you must know in order to take your edits to basic and lame into a masterful piece of artwork, I want to strongly urge you all to go check out my Skool Community. There's nothing but absolute gold inside. I've packaged literally everything I know in the last 7 years, everything I've learned from working with some of the biggest YouTubers in this space to even some of the smallest ones, what I've learned from even editing documentaries, and many other learnings that I've obtained over the years, I've packaged this all into a comprehensive, interactive, and fun community inside of Skool. And here's the best part, it's completely for free. Now, I normally charge $47 per month to be a part of this community, but right now until November 10th, 2024, it's gonna be $0 per month to join. And when I bring the price back up to $47 per month on November 10th, if you join during this time where it's free, then you will continue to have access to the group forever for free. When the price goes up, you will not have to pay. You will stay in there for free. So it's literally a win-win. If you actually go through this, I guarantee you that you will land your first client within the next 30 days or less. And if you already have clients and you're not happy with the amount they're paying, or you're not happy with the amount you have and you feel like you need to get more, this will also help you with that. So I strongly urge you to just take action to go join a free group. If you can't even take action to do that, then you should probably click off the rest of this video because you're not going to take action on this. Anyways, guys, I strongly urge you to do that. It's going to be the first link in the description below. Now let's jump back into cutting. So the first cut I want to go over is the jump cut. Now the jump cut, sometimes referred to in a different way, but for the sake of this video, it's when you make a cut and now you have two clips in between the cut, and then the second clip, you zoom in your video. So then it goes from the first clip, which is the normal position and scale, to the second clip, which is scaled in a little bit further. And it almost gives this feeling of switching to a different camera angle, which helps, one, hide cuts, and two, makes the edit feel more seamless if used properly. Now, the next cut I want to go over is called the J cut. This is a super underused cutting technique that massively improves the quality, the pacing, and the just masterfulness of an edit. I don't even know if that made sense. It's a simple yet subtle editing technique, and it's quite beautiful. It's my favorite editing technique, the JNL cut. It's essentially where you let the audio from the next clip begin to play before the actual visual of that clip shows up. So it's essentially where you hear the audio of something before you actually see the clip that audio is paired with. The L cut's basically the exact same thing, just in reverse. It's the opposite. It's where the audio continues to play out while the visuals cut out. So imagine a plane taking off, and then right as it takes off, it cuts and goes to black or the next scene, but you continue to hear the sound of the airplane go. That would be an L cut. Now, one more way to be an extraordinary editor, where top creators just reach out to you, is to take videos they give you, and instead of just cutting it or just following a script and then leaving in every single piece of content that the creator recorded in chronological order, instead switch it up a bit. Focus on the actual piece of content as a whole. Don't focus on the nitty and gritty technical, just drag and dropping one clip at a time, editing it in chronological order, and then having just a basic kind of storyline. If you really want to stand out and you want to impress creators and you want creators to start reaching out to you, view it all from a bird's eye view and view it from a story perspective. And when you start editing the video, look at all the clips you have and see if you can maybe craft the story in a different way. Don't just edit it in chronological order. See what clips you should take out to add to the story, and see what clips maybe you should put back in or leave in order to add to the story. In fact, I do this with a lot of creators I work for, and they're like, I definitely want that clip and that clip and that clip A, B, and C in the video. When I go through and I actually view it from a story perspective, from a bird's eye point of view, I sometimes don't edit it in the order they want, and I sometimes take out the video, the clip they specifically said they wanted, because it works better for the story. And then when I send it off to them, I say, listen, it's totally okay. I think that this works better. And if you don't, it's fine. Within the next hour, I can change it back to how you wanted it. I've literally not once had a client say, no, I want it how I wanted it. They've always been like, wow, you're actually right. That does work a lot better for the story. That is another way you can really become an exceptional editor. Take the initiative to craft stories and be creative and unique. So you see, there's so much more you need to think about that I'm sure you initially didn't think you had to as a video editor when it comes to cutting your footage. Now, if you want to see what I'm talking about in action, there's a creator who has editors who do this really well when it comes to editing for storytelling, and that's Johnny Harris. And if you want to see another masterful editor break this down on an even deeper level than I ever will, who breaks down edits from a storytelling and psychology perspective, then I highly recommend recommend you check out Logan Paul's old editor, Hayden Hillier-Smith. He's also the co-host of the Editing Podcast. Super good resource if you guys want to dive even deeper into this specific topic of storytelling within editing. Okay, now let's jump into the second point, which is auditory elements that people overlook, editors overlook, that actually make a massive difference despite what you may or may not think. Now, within audio, we have a few different types of auditory elements. We have dialogue, we have music, and we have sound effects. Now, the most important one I want to talk about may actually shock you, and it's dialogue. See, we all know that music and sound effects make a massive difference to your edit, but a lot of people, a lot of editors disregard the actual dialogue. You see, a lot of editors don't even bother to touch the dialogue, and this is a huge mistake. The first and main reason being that if a video has good visuals but terrible audio, the viewer is statistically less likely to watch than if a video had poor video quality and really good audio, which is a really interesting statistic to keep in mind. And I have a quick story on this topic of auditory elements. You see, I've edited for a YouTuber named Jeremy Ether. He's a fitness influencer. He comes out with great content. I recommend you subscribe to him. I no longer edit for him, but I used to. And when I was his editor, I remember one of the things that made such a huge difference to him. I did all of these crazy cool 3D animations. I did a lot of cool After Effects stuff. I did a lot of really cool stuff for him. But what I did the most is he filmed in a gym where there was a lot of echo. And all I did was simply edited his audio, his dialogue to make the echo go away. And he was so blown away by this that I even got hired on a longer term contract and making more money for him. It's the little things that you think won't make a difference that make a huge difference. He thought, yeah, cool, you did all these animations and stuff, but that's kind of what he expected from me. What he didn't expect was the audio to be so good, because no other editor he's worked with has touched the audio before. Now, in order to do this, literally, you can just use AI right now. And coming into 2025, it's crazy. You have Premiere Pro's enhanced speech, which is insane. You have Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve's voice isolation, which is super great as well. All you need to do is literally tick a box or run your audio through AI, and it will completely clear up your audio and make the dialogue sound good. Also, a quick tip I recommend with audio is when you read your audio metrics inside of it, whatever editing software you are, I recommend you stay anywhere between -6 dB and 0 dB. That range typically plays really well on all headphones and all computers, speakers, or phone speakers. Now, this brings us into the final point of this part of the video, and I wanted to add this because I see it done so poorly. And that's the topic of discussion of visuals. Now, when I'm talking about adding visuals, I'm talking about many different things. This can be anything on screen, like titles, transitions, animations, overlays. I'm referring to it all. Now, when I talk about visuals, I like to focus on two main things. Number one is knowing where or when to place the visuals, and number two is knowing what to actually visualize, what to actually create as a visual. So let's break this down. Where should you actually place the visuals? You see, editors overcomplicate this way too much. If you focus on storytelling and you focus on cutting right, and the edit becomes a cohesive, good piece of content, then the content itself will tell you when to put a visual. For example, if I'm editing a video for a client or for myself, and there's a line of dialogue in the video that says, in order to turn $5 into $500 over the span of the next 7 years, you need to invest in the S&P 500. Now, if I hear that, what do you think I'm gonna do? What do you think I'm gonna put? Well, the video is basically telling me to put a visual there, right? It's talking about money turning into more money and then putting that money into something. Do you think that it would add to the story to just leave that talking head A-roll? Or do you think it would add to the story to create something cool, a unique visual to show that happening? You see, pay attention to the content in the story, and the content will tell you what and where to add visuals. In this case, I would probably create a cool basic animation in After Effects, or if not in After Effects, maybe if you're not there yet, you can even do this just using Premiere Pro. Show $5 and then a transition coming on the screen and it turning into $500, and then show that bag of money moving into the S&P 500 logo or something like that. I'm just brainstorming off the top of my head, but you get the idea. Pay attention to the content in the story, and it will tell you what and where to add visuals. Guys, remember to check out my Skool Community before November 10th, or if you want to join it after November 10th, be my guest, because it'll be $47 a month then. But if you want to join it at $0 for free, then join it before November 10th, 2024, which is in 2 weeks, I think. It's going to be the first link in the description below. It teaches you guys everything you need to know to land your first client or to land more clients within the next 30 days or less, guaranteed. And guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm rooting for you.